Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. Please note this will be a live broadcast meeting, will be available on the Combined Authority YouTube channel, and just obviously remember to use your microphones when speaking so people in the audience and at home can hear us. This is the first meeting post-Christmas, so thank you everyone. I hope everyone's had a happy new year. As our organisation is growing and making sure we can deliver for everyone, we just want to welcome particularly Claire Hoskins, our new Director of Transport, who brings a huge wealth of experience, most recently from the East Riding Council. So welcome to Claire. And I'd also like to welcome the wider team from Transport Particular and Active Travel, who will be supporting us across York and North Yorkshire, which are all fantastic additions. So I welcome all those. Item 1 is apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Director of Economy Andy Kerr and Head of Business David Ryden. Elizabeth, are there any more apologies that you're aware of? Thank you.
Yeah, apologies from Ian Floyd and Ben Murphy's attending in his place on behalf of City of York Council.
Thank you very much, and welcome Ben to your first Combined Authority meeting as well. I think it's your first one. Thank you. Item 2 is the minutes held on the meeting on the 28th of November 2025. Minutes can be found on page 5 of the agenda pack. Are members content that the minutes are correct? Lots of nods. Are we happy with those? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Elizabeth. Item 3 is declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members of anyone? Normally okay on this. Okay, thank you. Okay, Elizabeth. Item 4 is public participation. We've not received any questions from public participation, I believe. Thank you, Elizabeth. Item 5 is the Mayor's update. So, as I said at the start, Happy New Year to everyone who I've not seen since. I think you're allowed to say Happy New Year while you're still in January. I think when you get to February, it's probably a bit too late. But we're just obviously looking to carry on the great work that we've already been doing right across York and North Yorkshire and the region. We obviously got off to a great start with the announcement of Northern Powerhouse Rail only last week, which Claire, leader from York, and I attended the press launch in Leeds and welcomed the role that York in particular will play in improving that connectivity right across the York and being at the heart of it. A faster turn up and go, for example, serves between Leeds, York, Bradford and Sheffield, and eventually onwards to Manchester and Liverpool. So we are going to be expanding over the other side of the Pennines. It's going to open up so many more opportunities for people and businesses for our region and across the north, which is obviously much needed and great to see. And it strengthens our local case and priorities too, particularly for the 2 trains per hour service to York and Scarborough, which will really bring that coast much closer to our cities. Obviously, the focus now on is making sure that we get the most of this for the wider region so that all people and businesses again can enjoy the benefits of this much improved connectivity, which we have so desperately needed, particularly in the north, but particularly in York and North Yorkshire. Yesterday, I signed a compact with the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, who visited us in York yesterday, which establishes York as a place as part of the new Northern Growth Corridor, which will be stretching from Liverpool through Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds and York. And obviously we'll be at the forefront of growing the UK economy. And again, the advantages and unique opportunities we have, particularly around the agritech in the industrial revolution and strategy that's been put forward is obviously fundamental to the growth in our region. I've continued to represent our region on the national stage, including attending meetings over in Liverpool with the Great North, a collaboration of Northern Mayors, followed by the UK Mayors and the mayoral equivalent of the LGA, and finally the Mayoral Council. It was a very long day of a lot of mayoral meetings, that one. These are important forums and really advancing devolution and our region's priorities and putting them at the forefront of government's agenda. Slightly back to rail, we've remained in close contact with the Department for Transport on the delivery of the Haxby York North Station, and was pleased that after over a year of lobbying, it was announced that Thirst Station in particular was included in the Access for All scheme, the only station actually in Yorkshire to receive this funding. I know there's been a lot of lobbying and work around this. I actually visited that station the week before when it had been snow and icing, and it's a terribly inaccessible station for all. So seeing this being announced is tremendous for our region. Continue to visit community organisations and businesses across the patch as well. It's especially heartwarming to see some of the funds, particularly for the Mayoral investment funds, that we can actually see those come into life. One such was the Ryedale Special Families, which was a particular highlight towards the end of the year. Having visited when it was quite literally under construction and still a building site, so to see the amazing work happen there for our community building fund. And I just want to applaud and thank my team as well, who've been able to push through those investment funds, particularly the Community Wealth Building Fund. In Moulton, I saw the impact that traders and businesses have been having with the in Moulton, the work that's happening over there on the high street as well, and then the WOW project in Warmgate here in York. And in Knaresborough, I'll be honest, it's probably the most heartwarming and touching meeting I've ever been to in Knaresborough, meeting with the Chain Lane Community Hub. For those of you who have not visited, I highly recommend doing so. And the work they're doing, particularly around bringing community groups together, and again, being able to support projects like that, is exactly why I am in this job. In York and the High Street project, as I said, touched on Warmgate and really looking to rejuvenate the Warmgate area, which again is something that I've been passionate about since I've had a business in York over 10 years, and having spent much time on that street, to see that street really come into life as well is brilliant to see. We've been continue to engage with the visitor economy groups in the region following the announcement of the overnight visitor levy, the OVL. Having met with Scarborough Tourism Board yesterday, in December, I met with the York Tourism Advisory Board and the Hospitality Association here in York. And the coming weeks, I'm meeting with the equivalents in Skipton, Ripon, Harrogate and North Allerton, and we'll continue to work with them to make sure that this is right for our region. Alongside Joe Coles, my Deputy Mayor, we hosted the first regional faith leaders roundtable in December to discuss community cohesion and the challenges around hate crime and the rise in hate crime incidents. So thank you, Joe, and the wider team and the OPFCC for the work that we're doing there as well. I did at one point leave the patch, which I don't do lightly, but travelled all the way to Barnsley to see the Health on the High Street project there, which has been a tremendous success, working with the NHS and the hospital trust there to see not only how they brought health more into the community, but also an opportunity there to rejuvenate high streets and bring extra visitor spend into the local economy. And I think just a great example of leadership there in Barnsley and the work that's been able to do to when you bring those partners together, a great success story. I actually left the patch again, actually went to Oxford, left North Yorkshire again, went to Oxford, all the way to Oxford for the Food and Farming Countryside Commission. I'll be honest with you, the food was brilliant. That was the main reason for going. But an opportunity to really put the Grow Yorkshire Partnership and the work that's been done in York and North Yorkshire around food and farming sector there, and the incredibly important role that farmers play to our economy, and obviously being able to put the work that York and North Yorkshire through the Grow Yorkshire Partnership on the map as well, and to exchange experience and ideas was again a really great privilege to be there. Because things generally come in threes, I worked with Tracy Braben on the White Rose Forest Partnership, which is the planting of 134 million trees in Western and North Yorkshire. We only planted one, so there's a fair way to go. But needs to say that that's a great project, not just about enhancing our natural habitats, but also the work of tree planting that can do to mitigate flood and the damage and slowing the flow. So a great project that Tracy and I are working on, and hopefully we'll expand that out into all the Yorkshire mayors. So it's been a busy period or so, and obviously it doesn't stop. But if there's any questions or comments that anyone would like to raise, would you like to come in there? Come in, Councillor Dodd.
Okay, I just want to touch upon the Thirsk station improvement. You said we've been lobbying for a year. That is no doubt true, but in reality, we've been lobbying for 20 years. And I'm gonna give a little accolade to your government, our government, actually. It won't last long, but we've got some stuff on the agenda that perhaps I won't be so complimentary. But at long last, so on a serious point, you've recognised the difficulties at Thirsk station. It's archaic, and quite honestly, it has delighted me to see that announcement. 20 years, I, alongside others at North Yorkshire, have been banging the drum for fairness, actually, fairness of access at First Station. And I tell you, it will be transformational in terms of public transport and people's connectivity. So for your part in it, I thank you. And hopefully, David, I will invite you to Thirsk again when it's completed. I may or may not be an elected official. You may or may not be. But when it is, we can go together and have a look at it. Huh?
We can come back and reminisce about old times, can't we, guys?
We can. Sorry, just to add as well, I feel as though I should mention Graham North, who's now part of the Combined Authority, because he's been front and centre in terms of leading the lobbying on this. And also, I think, you know, it would be helpful, and I know Graham will do this, to keep the pressure on the DFT so we know timescales, because I think locally I can probably help move that along as well in various ways if there is local blockages, but it's just so vital.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Gareth. Let's come in there.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think what Councillor Dadd has raised about the success at Thirsk is really, really important. And I want to thank the Mayor for the support that he has shown to York over the period since he's become Mayor, which will be 2 years in May. Goodness gracious. Yes, time races by, doesn't it? But I think what we are very much starting to see is an absolute consistent line of delivery through into commitments to our area and our region. And the economic investment in York, particularly at this point in time, that will feed through and move through into North Yorkshire over a period of time is really important and really welcome. So York being part of that growth corridor is hugely important. Also, it's strong representation on Northern Powerhouse Rail and what that means for York Station and our economic prosperity, not just for York, but the broader area, our travel region is really, really important. And also, I was really glad to see Councillor Les joined us last week for meeting with senior civil servants on our One Public Estate approach that at the moment is focused on York as the starting point, but going through to deliver for all of us in the longer term. And without our Mayor, we would not be in this position now. So I really want to make sure that everybody understands that collective work, its effectiveness, the absolute doggedness of speaking to government and the results that it brings is hugely valued. So thank you for that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Colburn.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for all the work that you've done over the last, getting on for 2 years, and the advocacy that you've shown for the entire region. It really does make a difference. But I remember being in opposition, and I used to use the line all the time that if government announcements built train stations, Haxby would have 7 by now, because the reality was they were never delivered on the ground. The difference that we're seeing now, thanks to the relationships that the officers have with various departments, thanks to the political leadership that we all contribute to, is actually getting some of those projects over the line. So not only will we see Haxby, north of York, getting delivered during this Parliament, we might even, we found out today in breaking news, see Councillor Dadd on a train if Thirsk Station gets its upgrade. And I certainly, if you can make sure you slip me an invite to that one there, I'll be there. I'll be there taking photographs. So that would be great. But it is also testament to the work that the Yorkshire mayors across the patch have done. And I think we see the result of that in Northern Powerhouse Rail. So it is a combined effort, primarily, you know, across the north. And it is great testament to devolution that these projects can start to be delivered, working collectively across the north, and then particularly through the White Rose Agreement. It is a shame that not all Yorkshire mayors chose to join that agreement. It is a shame that not all North Yorkshire political parties are behind the Northern Powerhouse rail agreement. However, those that have joined in, those that are trying to get a slice of the pie, have been rewarded this last week, and it is transformational for our entire region. It is greatly welcomed, and again, I thank you and your team for all the work that you've done on this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilbane. Okay, item 6, receipt of petition, the Hipswell and Colburn call for congestion relief on the A6136. I've received a petition calling for congestion relief on the A6136 at Hipswell and Colburn from North Yorkshire Council Kevin Foster, which is had signed by just over 1,000 petitioners, I believe. The lead petitioner, Councillor Foster, is present and would like to speak. If that's okay in your own time, Councillor. You do have 3 minutes, but don't worry about time on that.
Thank you, Mayor. I never take 3 minutes to say what I need to do, but thank you very much. Mayor, thank you for taking the time to receive this petition today. I'm here on behalf of local residents who are deeply concerned about traffic conditions on the A6136. This is no longer just about inconvenience, it's about safety, reliability, and whether our infrastructure is keeping up with the level of development already underway and still coming forward. On many occasions, the traffic is backed up as far as the A1. Our local MP agrees that there is a serious issue here, particularly given the scale of development in the pipeline across Colburn and Catterick Garrison and the wider areas. The combined authority, you have agreed with North Yorkshire Council to designate the A613 as a part of the key road network for York and North Yorkshire. That recognition is welcomed, but now it needs to be matched by meaningful action. We need all parties working together, North Yorkshire Council, the Ministry of Defence and the combined authority, developers and regional partners to develop a proper long-term solution, not just short-term fixes. I'm aware that funding has been made available for improvements to traffic in Colburn. While any investment is welcome, I have to be honest, this is like putting a plaster over a major wound. It will not solve fundamental problems on the A6136 or make road fit for purpose. Public transport is also failing residents. Bus services in the area are unreliable, frequently late, not turning up at all. This is only an hourly service, yet provides the sole public transport links to Richmond and to the nearest railway station, Darlington. When services fail, residents' access to hospital, employment, job opportunities and other education is directly restricted. This actively prevents active and sustainable transport and forces more people into cars, worsening congestion on the roads. I've been lobbying Arriva directly, and in the short term, a 30-minute bus service would make a real difference. At a local area committee, they've intimated that they're looking at that. You have the ability to fund this. I ask you to use your funding coming from national government to help improve, stabilise this service, while long-term highway solutions are developing. This petition is a clear call from my residents for joined-up thinking, proper planning and decisive action. We need solutions that genuinely reflect the scale of the growth in the area and deliver lasting improvements for the people who live there and work there. In closing, let's be proactive rather than reactive. Thank you for listening, and I urge to work with us to address this properly and without delay. And finally, I hope I can join the fan club soon with Councillor Dadd and the other councillors singing your praises soon about transfer improvements that they've been doing as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for presenting today, Councillor Foster. And obviously, we have 1,000 residents that have signed this petition. We know so many communities, or too many communities, are blighted by poor congestion across the region. And as you've touched on there, it doesn't just impact cars, it then has a knock-on effect to our bus services as well, which then cause delays, which then cause frustrations. And I also remain committed to improving connectivity across the whole of York and North Yorkshire. And in the case of, as you've touched on there, the A6136, it is a North Yorkshire primarily responsible, but as part of our regional key route network, we work collectively and collaboratively with them to address such congestion challenges. And from next financial year as well, the Mayoral Transport Fund actually does include an element of funding to improve congestion relief as well. I will just bring in Councillor Les, who just did want to bring on a point as well, if that's so. Okay,
yeah, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I mean, you'll see from the papers, the petition is actually addressed to you as the mayor, but also to me as leader of the council. This has been an ongoing problem for a number of years. Recently, because Kevin's raised it more publicly, I've been speaking with the MP's office, and the MP is offering to host a roundtable discussion with the council, with the combined authority, and especially with the Ministry of Defence and Defence Estates. So I think that's a useful step forward, irrespective of what you're going to say that you would like to do.
Absolutely, yes. So if we may, councillor, that's okay. We'll take that away as an action to make sure that happens. And actually, in the paper today, it was a recommendation to actually note, but actually, I'd like to change the recommendation to actually recommend this to the Transport Advisory Board, which I believe the next meeting is in April. Paul, is that correct? The 24th, yeah, and we'll recommend it to the Transport Advisory Board to have that discussion and working through that phase as well. If that suits as well, councillor.
Can I come back briefly, Matt?
Absolutely, of course.
I just want to make an extra note. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that from Councillor Les and yourself. Can I ask you to, as in the speech, contact Aruva and see if they're going to do that 30 minutes buses? I'd really appreciate that. Again, thank you for your time, and any updates on that for my residents would be really well appreciated. Thank you.
I'll take that away as an action to note as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. So if we could just have a seconder to move that to be taken to the next Transport Advisory Board, a seconder for that, and all in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you for that, Councillor Foster. Item 7. Sorry, my laptop's running a bit slowly. Mayoral Investment Challenge Funds and moving forward update. In the absence of Andy Kerr, who would normally present on this, Andrew is going to hand over to Claire Robinson to present on these papers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. I wanted to just sort of acknowledge that the paper is given as an update, so there's no recommendations needed. So it is purely an update on about £35 million worth of investment that the Mayor has put forward on 7 programmes now. We are a small team that are working on pushing these programmes out. All of them are now out in play, which has been a huge task to sort of mobilise that amount of money. And the team are hugely excited and very proud to be looking at investing in the innovation and the energy that is coming forward from large and small organisations across our region. And it's really proud, we're really proud of the fact that we can include in many of the programmes micro organisations sitting alongside local authority projects that are coming forward, and the learning that we can take from all of those and interrelate them. I wanted to pull out just a couple of examples of the good work so that it made it a little bit more real for you, and it wasn't just sort of statistical information that was presented on the paper. Particularly if I just go through them very quickly, say, for example, in the Business Innovation Challenge Fund, we put out a call for export. It had been hugely invested in through SPF over the last 3 years, and we felt that because SPF weren't supporting it moving into the 4th year, that we would use the challenge funds to actually explore what that could bring us. Exceptional interest from our businesses in the region to look at and explore what the international markets could offer them. Round 1, we have 48 businesses now invested in so that they can go out and explore their exports, and I'll be delighted soon to bring you the return on investment that creates. Second round of that, 47 businesses, different businesses. So we have that appetite to innovate and to move internationally, hosted within this region. So really proud to be able to mobilise that. In, for example, the challenge funds under carbon negative, we've got 19 projects now that are finally coming to the cross over the line in terms of their contracts, and we know that comms are going to come out with quite an innovative piece in February to allow the public to understand the breadth of innovation that's coming forward through the carbon negative challenge. And we've put a short case study at the end of the report which goes into one of the investments in Seagrun on the coast, to have a look and explore what seaweed can do for us. Who knew that seaweed was going to be the next best thing. I live in Scarborough, and it's fantastic to see that organisation grow. And exciting for Scarborians and residents over there to know that that company is exploring how seaweed can be used as a protein supplement, how it can be used as a biostimulant for crop growth, etc. So really amplifying the aqua sort of culture and industry that's potentially there, particularly because we've got other sort of fertiliser operations happening on the coast. There's some really exciting stuff. High streets, 3 S's just to highlight for you, really going strong in terms of a programme that's getting out there. Scarborough, sorry for being slightly biased, the Market Hall in Scarborough, for those that have visited Scarborough and will see the Market Hall down at the bottom end, that's where we refer it to. Amazing profiling now of that that sort of whole development, really pushing itself forward on social media, great investment and galvanizing of the community that's down there. So for us, certainly as locals, and I'm sure the residents, the visitors will benefit in due course when we get finer weather, that the whole market area there. Skipton, I don't need to say anything other than if you saw Look North this week, there was a short article on Skipton being the happiest place to live in the UK. I would hope in some small way our high street contribution to energising Skipton had a hand in that. And Selby, for all those high streets that are populated with lots of second-hand shops, Selby has really helped us understand how that isn't a downplaying of the high street. They filled the Abbey by bringing together their second-hand shop to put on the most tremendous fashion show, and actually that has re-energised the town in terms of understanding what benefits those shops will bring to the high street. So that work continues. We know in the High Street Fund, we've had 19 funded through round 1, 19 funded through round 2. We're predicted to get in 55 applications now for round 3. So that programme has really generated some great ideas out there and momentum. Just something that I'd like to highlight for the minutes, and I will send a link across for the actual minutes of the meeting. Men's mental health programme, huge. We've got the Mayor as a huge advocate, but also other pillars within the local authorities and wider network of our partners who are standing up now and being counted for their journeys as men, sort of contributing to the agenda. We've had 79 applications in from small and large organisations into that fund. We're going through appraisal of all of those, but the appetite is huge on that one. But the minute would have our campaign, which is just starting to be amplified, called Shift Your Focus. And it's a mayoral backed campaign to actually help men not open up more, but actually understand what positive steps could be taken if there are those moments when time just needs to pause a tiny bit and they can support themselves. So we're really behind that campaign and hope that both local authorities will join us on that as they have as we've developed that programme. Keenly watched for next report will be the active travel programme. That's now been started to be mobilised. We've got a paper coming to the 27th of February, which will give the progress update on active travel specifically, but the open call for opportunities to voluntary sector organisations, small businesses, etc., will happen on the 25th of February. So a lot for the combined authority to be super proud of that it's got out of the door, and thank you, Mayor, for the investment made on all of those programmes.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you for all the work that your team is doing. Also, thank you for bringing some examples forward to bring a bit of life to it. I think we often see things on a page, numbers, but actually being able to talk about some of the projects. And I've been very fortunate that I've been able to go and visit a lot of these projects and seeing the role that the combined authority and the wider team are making on our communities is incredibly clear to see. And even just this week has gone on, hasn't it? Even just this week, we launched the Dragon's Den style business innovation business support plan as well, which is the £2.5 million worth of fund as well to really support and deliver into our most ambitious businesses across York and North Yorkshire. And again, not just focusing on the large scales, those small micro businesses that really dominate our region. And again, you touched on the project in Selby and the second-hand and charity shop fashion show. That is still one of the most heartwarming events I've been to. And I was asked to walk down the catwalk. I decided against it. But again, I would highly recommend. I believe they're looking to do something similar again this year. And it was heartwarming on a horrible wet Tuesday to see over 400 people in Selby Abbey and the businesses there, and actually the link into the Selby College to get the young people from Selby College there to present some of their work as well and bring those next generation of retail shop owners, perhaps we may say, coming through was excellent to see. So yeah, thank you very much for all the work and your team are doing there. And again, I think going forward, if we could keep presenting some of those projects, and again, if anyone would like to go see any of the projects we are funding, please reach out into the team, because particularly with the new funds coming through the rounds of High Street and everything else, will be great to get officers and leaders out there as well to go see that work. Because again, we often get stuck behind our desk, but actually being out in the field and seeing the work is a great privilege. Any comments or questions for any members? No. So recommendations are on page 28 of the agenda package. The proposer and a seconder.
Proposed.
And move to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. We're not about to take off, are we? No, it's is it outside? Okay, fine. Sorry. A little bit of noise here. So item 8, everyone, is the York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority Established Status application to MHCLG. This is a report by the Chief Exec, James. I'll hand over to you, please, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to agree that the Combined Authority is ready to become an established Mayoral Strategic Authority and seek Combined Authority approval for the Mayor to write formally to the Secretary of State at the earliest possible opportunity on behalf of the region. Just as kind of potted background on this, so the devolution deal was agreed in August 2022, and the original proposal from the constituent authorities was clear to government that we saw this as being the start of a devolution journey, and since we signed the devolution deal, we've been looking to secure additional funding flexibilities and powers. Subsequent to this, we elected the Mayor, and then there was a change of government, and the current government have published a English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill, which sets out the future structure for deepening devolution across the country and including in York and North Yorkshire. And particularly within this, it identifies a new standing of Combined Authority, which is called an Established Mayoral Strategic Authority, which opens up the most opportunities for any region who are seeking devolution. Currently, there are 7 strategic authorities who have got the established status, which are the more established ones, the longer ones, so your Manchester, West Yorkshire, West Midlands, etc. And there is a set of criteria which you have to meet as a combined authority in order to achieve that established status. The criteria that you have to achieve are set out in the document. It's that the combined authority has to be in existence for 18 months. We've now achieved that. It has to have a published assurance framework, which has been approved by CLG. We have that in place. It is not subject to any best value notice. We're not subject to any best value notice, and there's no material accounting concerns related to the combined authority, all of which we meet and we satisfy. So the recommendation is that we kind of move forward and secure this. If you secure established status, it opens up the maximum number of opportunities for you. And in particular, I will highlight an example of where we've missed out. So in the comprehensive spending review, which was published earlier in 2025, the established combined authorities got awarded £30 million of innovation funding. Everybody else, including ourselves, are now having to put time, effort and resources into bidding for money from that fund, where the established areas got the money allocated and could then just focus on investing it with the greatest impact. We obviously want to be in that category. Achieving established status will also open up the legal right for us to request further devolution. So we can then look at what we would need, what are the powers we would need in York and North Yorkshire from any government department, and we have a legal right to request that, and the government has to formally respond for that. So it opens up the opportunity for us to really understand our region and ask for what we want. And it also opens up the opportunity for an integrated settlement. So you may have seen in the papers, in the news, that the more established ones are going through an integrated settlement, which effectively brings together money from a number of different sources. So economic development, transport, adult skills, employment support, housing, environment and climate change, and health and well-being into a single settlement, and has greater flexibilities around how that money is invested. I want to be clear at this point that what we're seeking is approval to apply for established status, which opens up these opportunities. Should we wish to go for an integrated settlement down the line, we will have a further decision by a combined authority in order to do this. The paper today, which I have taken any questions, is that the combined authority endorses the case for seeking established combined authority status and delegates the authority to myself as Chief Exec, in consultation with the Mayor, to oversee the preparation and submission of the application for the combined authority to become an established Mayoral combined authority. And it supports the Mayor in applying, formally writing to the Secretary of State and requesting that status.
Thank you very much, James. I think it's fair to say this could look quite a bit of a procedural and a little bit boring, but actually this is really putting us in that front line for funding stream, which we currently miss out on, as you've been raised. And one of those, which you've raised, which one of those is the example of the innovation funding, which, as we said, other strategic combined authorities, basically been granted £30 million. We've got to go through a whole process to actually apply, and then potentially apply for even less money than what we would have received if we'd have been in that established status. I think it's fair to say again that devolution is the game that is in town, and it's one that government is prioritising, and it's the best way for them to deliver on their goals and to get funding out the door. And building the strong relationships with this region and putting us at the forefront of that is exactly what we need to be doing, and that is the result of what we've been able to do so far with the powers that we've had. And fundamentally, this is about improving the lives of York and North Yorkshire and hitting on those agenda. And it's also a very clear message to government. I feel that it's really that we are ready to do this, and our region doesn't want to be left behind and ignored any longer. As you've touched on there, we do meet the criteria. I think it's fair to say that most regions in the north, and particularly York and North Yorkshire, has been overlooked for decades, and now having that stronger place to be able to secure investment from government is imperative, but also just the priorities around some of our opportunities that we have are very unique to other areas. So being able to have those engagement with government and be much more the forefront is absolutely key, and that ability to engage with them and look at further devolved powers that we would like to explore for our region that may be unique to us, that other areas may not be engaging with. Again, we can have those conversations. So it just puts us in a really strong map. And I know some members around here were at the very forefront of bringing devolution to York and North Yorkshire, and we have evolved massively even in these last couple of years. So where the future takes us, we don't know yet, but this is obviously a fantastic step on that journey. So any questions from members for James on that? Would you like to come in there?
Thank you. And thank you, James and Mayor, for that introduction. And I cannot overemphasise, from my opinion and my members' opinions, the importance of moving to the next step of devolution for York, specifically as leader of York, but in my view, also for the broader area too. We took that first stage together a number of years ago now, and we have worked really closely, and it really has taken off since you have arrived with us, Mayor. And I think that we cannot underestimate the opportunities that moving to established status provides for us. I think we're starting to get an inkling of that now, but as you say, without that established status, we are still having to bid into pots. Whereas with established status, we will be able to continue our effective lobbying to government to bring more and more funding into the area without having to put that additional time and effort into going into a competitive process, which is hugely important for us. And I am absolutely desperate to get on with that work that opportunity can bring us. I just can't wait for us to get this application in, see what the result is, move forward and really take devolution to the next stage in York. Thank you.
Councillor. Would you like to come in there? Councillor?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. I mean, it's no secret that we had a number of concerns about the process moving to established status, and thank you for those discussions that we've had elsewhere to actually understand better what it's all about. I think our concerns really centred around two key themes. The first was capacity and capability. You know, were we actually ready for it? Because it seemed as if we were almost rushing towards it. But as you say, devolution has moved very quickly, especially since the new government has come into place. It was my government that introduced it, but your government has really picked it up and run with it. And I think our concerns about capacity, capability are addressed in 4.3, and it will be others who will actually decide whether we are ready or not. The other concern we had was, well, what really was the benefit of making that change? And I think James has given it very clearly this morning that it's about more access to and easier access to funding streams and to more funding streams. And we all know that it takes as much effort to write the bid that fails as it does to write the bid that actually succeeds. So anything that we can do to avoid the bidding process is a good thing. And I am reassured by the comment that James has made about there will be a future debate about integrated settlements. It isn't just an automatic flow into that. So I look forward to having that debate in due course.
Thank you for that point. And as you raised there, just an example is the innovation fund application I'm putting now. That is taking up capacity and time and energy from our team who could be working on elsewhere, whereas other established status would just essentially handed that money. So it speeded up the process. Would you like to come in there as well? Councillor Colburn.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, James, and thank you, Councillor Les. Just to add to what Councillor Douglas expressed very eloquently. York City York Council has, for historical reasons, been an affiliate non-voting member of West Yorkshire Combined Authority for many years. So for example, the work that you see happening outside the front of the station now is part funded by West Yorkshire Combined Authority. When I was first elected in 2019, I sat on scrutiny committees for West Yorkshire when, to be honest, it was little more than a passenger transport executive with a new name that was taking on some responsibility for economic growth. Yesterday, I subbed for Councillor Douglas at the WICA committee meeting where they were agreeing the 1.2 billion integrated settlement for their region and deciding how to spend that money themselves with great flexibility on the whole budget, which was half capital, half revenue, essentially. And I've got to tell you, Mayor, my eyes were watering. How much I would love to have sums approaching that with absolute discretion as to how we spend it in the best way for our region. And this is the only way that we're going to get there. It'll be a long journey. There will be checks and balances along the way for sure. But right now, as you said, Mayor, it is the only game in town. We have to do what's best for our entire region, and that is to pursue this funding in any way that we can. So support totally taking this forward.
Thank you, Councillor Kilburn. I would just ask that I did write to members this week as well, just outline the benefits and how we see them, and I could ask if those could be added to the minutes as well, just so we have those for reference going forward as well. Any further comments, questions? We're okay there. Seek a proposal and a seconder. The recommendations can be page 39 of the agenda pack.
Proposed.
Yep, seconder. And all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, James. Item 9 is the Grow Yorkshire Renewed. In the absence of Director of Economy Andrew Lehman will present the report.
Yes, thank you.
As well. Yeah, if you want to come in first, Jan, that's fine, yeah.
So I'll just provide a little bit of
Yeah, yeah.
background and then Jan's got some as acting chair of Grow Yorkshire as current. So this report provides an update on a reconstituted Grow Yorkshire, but would be clearly supporting and enabling our priority around food and farming, and addressing some of the issues that came out of the farm study that was done earlier last year. Grow Yorkshire, just a bit of background, Grow Yorkshire was created in 2019 by the Local Enterprise Partnership, and it continues today as a programme of the Combined Authority, and it's got a broad membership of various different farm and food interests, and I'm sure Jan will go through a little bit more of that when she talks to the members. The farming sector faces significant challenges, and that 2025 farm study report, which reviewed the state of farming finance and also the challenges facing the industry, which was commissioned by the Mayor. And just one big fact out of that was that it showed that 52% of farms in this region are currently not economically sustainable, which indicated an urgent need for intervention. And the Grow Yorkshire initiative has been central to some of that work. So what's proposed within the report really is, it first of all sets out a little bit of a strategic framework, which really looks at how we can start to create a more resilient farming and food sector, how we can look at sustainability and food security, and how we can sort of broaden that into the more thriving and having thriving rural communities, so that more rural communities basis. I think not to steal any of Jan's thunder, but the Grow Yorkshire initiative as it stands was very much around the farming sector almost entirely, and didn't really got itself broadened into that more rural agenda, and I think this is what's proposed. So it's proposed that an expert advisory panel is established. The membership will be quite broad, bringing on board additional people to the current membership of Grow Yorkshire, but also a food and farming delivery network, which will certainly engage a lot more with stakeholders, and hopefully enabling at the end of the day to attract more investment, provide a strong leadership to support this sector, with effective communication, and also to really push rural proofing across the programmes that the Combined Authority undertake and others. So before I cover the recommendations, if I could bring Jan in.
Thanks, Andrew. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. One of the things that in the paper that you've got, you will see a list of all the people who are members of the network and proposed. So I'm not going to cover that again. I just would like to say that I think that even though the focus of Grow Yorkshire was, the whole purpose was, it was about farming and supporting farmers, particularly because we'd had Brexit and then there was COVID, so that was specific, which is now we're wanting to broaden that agenda. I think it's fair to say that we achieved what we had good impact. More than 100 farms had some sort of sustainability programme or audit to move them forward on this journey. So with a host of other things and some training and all sorts of other impacts that we had as well. So I'm not going to bore you with that. Also, I was given the remit that only had 3 minutes. So I'm going to go to the nitty gritty bit. And most of you will know who do know me going, thank goodness she's only got 3 minutes. So obviously one of the key aims, Mayor, is to transition farms to be economically and environmentally sustainable and to improve the health, well-being and safety of rural communities. You will all be very familiar with the challenges facing farmers in recent years, many of whom are now realising that they need to diversify in order to survive. Grow Yorkshire Network members will be well placed to both identify good practice, which may be happening elsewhere. So, for example, the NFU and the CLA don't just cover York and North Yorkshire. A lot of them have a remit that covers the whole of the north of England, for example. And this will enable the Combined Authority to continue to be an exemplar at the forefront
of leading on and demonstrating focused support and advice to the agricultural sector, particularly in conjunction with the assets in agri-tech and R&D within the region. The newly refreshed network.
Excuse me, Jan, can we just pause 1 second?
Yeah.
While we've just got someone presenting, can we just keep the noise down just so we can have the present? Thank you very much. Thank you, Jan. Continue.
The newly refreshed network will be able to provide a vast range of expertise and advice to the combined authority, but will also play an important part in ensuring that all key players in the sector are working collectively, both to encourage their respective members to get involved and also to undertake any new initiatives being developed. With positive mechanisms in place, such as via the Grow Yorkshire network, associated organisations, and opportunities for public engagement, I would like to think that we can build greater enthusiasm for further devolution. People are more likely to engage when they can see that support and help is being provided to encourage and enable them to thrive. Connectivity and networking, meeting and knowing the right people to collaborate with and share ideas and information is vital when trying to improve local services. There are so many different groups focusing on specific needs within communities that having a key network with a shared ambition which can pass on good practice or identify barriers will be advantageous. Healthy, vibrant rural communities need to have their housing needs met adequately and accessible local jobs for there to be a thriving economy. And to achieve this, local job creation and thriving rural businesses are really, really important. There are lots of new and innovative ideas starting to develop, including a desire to raise the profile of small artisan, locally sourced products, as well as getting local food into the public sector supply chain, which can help reduce our carbon footprint. So here rests my case, my lad, for the case of a revised Grow Yorkshire network. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And thank you personally for your leadership and commitment in this role as well. I know it's been a huge amount of work over, a huge amount of years. And I was very fortunate to inherit Grow Yorkshire when I came in as mayor, and the expertise that we have around that table, as you say, this is not just local organisations, this is people like the NFU and the CLA who have that national stage presence and actually really helped us to put forward our farming review that we did last year that can help us support those nearly 7,000 farms that we have in York and North Yorkshire who are facing, incredibly difficult challenges, but really are the heart of our communities, but also the heart of our potential growth, and actually not just in things like food resilience, but actually the work that our farmers, landowners will do around the improvement into our environmental, the work they're going to have to do around tree planting, hedgerow, all these kind of things. They're absolutely the cornerstone, which is why we've made it such an imperative part of the Combined Authority and why we've done this piece of work to bring that expertise. What we don't want to do is lose it. We want to keep that expertise around that table and help me and my further team to be able to expand and explore the opportunities that we have in the sector, because I think there is so many opportunities there and the great work that we can build on. So personal thank you from me to yourself and to everyone else who's been involved over the years. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe, would you like to go next? Sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you as well for your presentation and just probably to acknowledge, which probably isn't as obvious in the paper as I would have done in terms of the partnerships that are so important in our rural economy and the important role that they play in our other public services. So certainly in terms of my role, in terms of delivery on rural crime, delivery on domestic abuse in rural communities, actually we can't do any of those things without these partnerships and these relationships in the rural economy. And certainly, I know it's coming up on the agenda, but when we think about the huge fire on the North Yorkshire moors, in the summer at Fylingdales. The Fire and Rescue Service could not have responded to that fire without partners from landowners, from the farming community and others in our rural communities. We would not have been able to respond. The Fire and Rescue Service cannot respond to these incidents on their own, and that's why these kind of initiatives and this investment is really, really important for our public services as well as for the rural economy. So I just wanted to make sure that people realised how important it is also for our public services.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Would you like to come in there as well?
Thank you, Mayor Scaith. So yeah, I just wanted to put my support behind this initiative. I think it's really important, and we must all remember that even in York, we are not solely an urban area, and we have our own farms and rural economy that sits within the York local authority boundary. And it is really important that those businesses are supported. And I have to say, one of the most interesting things that I have done amongst the many, many things that I do month in and month out is to visit the Great Yorkshire Show and go into the Deliciously Yorkshire stand. Well, you know, it's absolute huge bringing together of so many different businesses across our region, and understanding more about those food businesses and quite what they bring to the rural economy, and an amazing offer that we have between us across York and North Yorkshire around the quality of the food and the, as you said, reducing those food miles into our public service, but just for our residents as well, buying local. And many of our residents are very committed to this, to investing in their neighbours, their friends, etc. And you know, often people do know people that work in these businesses. And I was just astounded at the wealth and quality of what we have in our region. And I have to say that I am a big fan of many of those brands. So thank you for everything you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and the Yorkshire Show is a great opportunity to see that. I was fortunate to go last year again and was asked to judge on some cheese and ice cream. So that was a pretty high point of the job so far. So yeah, yeah. So but thank you ever so much for presenting today, Jan. Do members have any further comments or questions? Are we okay? Would you like to come in there? Les?
Well, just to say, I'm a fan of Grow Yorkshire as well. I can't remember when the LEP set it up, but I remember being there at the time that we did, and it's progressed since then, Jan, so well done. What I can't see in the paper is there a link to our business board, or is that just implicit rather than explicit? Because I do think there needs to be a connection between the business board in general and agribusiness as one of the biggest sectors in North Yorkshire.
Yes, we do have representation across. But
There is a proposal that probably both business board members, should they choose, will sit on the Grow Yorkshire network.
Just to bring it more that in-house, so it has that full joined up approach. Yeah. Yes, let's come in there. Councillor Dan?
Yeah, just to add my support to this as an initiative, and now more than ever, it's needed. Let's make no bones about it. Grow Yorkshire's dealing with agriculture, food and rural businesses and communities, and the challenges and attacks, and there has been an attack on those communities and businesses over the last 12, 18 months, frankly, and I am being slightly political now. There's been nothing short of calamitous. We've had an inheritance tax proposal. Thankfully, the Prime Minister and his government have U-turned on it partially, perhaps too late for some farms as well. We've had a proposed, I'm going to call it an attack, but certainly a debate around rural sports, trail hunting and the likes. And they are integral to rural communities. We have a government that, with some justification, I might add, I am not a climate change denier by any means, but the incentives to solar panel a lot of our agricultural land will not help with those communities and businesses in rural North Yorkshire. And finally, more locally, Mr Mayor, I know declare my previous interest. A small matter, it may well be in the great scheme of things, but a lot of our rural farms and rural communities depend upon tourism. So I would suggest that we can help as a combined authority, you can help with the delivery of a tourist tax. You call it a levy, but it's a tax, by listening and talking and taking on board the effects of that on our rural communities. So it's not all fair as unicorns and rainbows. Let's be honest, we've got to be realistic about this. But generally speaking, I'm very supportive of this initiative because it's needed now more than ever.
Thank you for your points, Councillor Dadden. I appreciate what you're saying. I think it's understanding that I am the first person who's ever put a farming study review for Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, which has not been done in the previous 15 or 20 years before I came into the patch, and really highlighting the importance of food and farming into our rural communities and the importance of food security's place. So there's been plenty of opportunities for others to do that. No one has done it, and that's why I've done it, and which is why I've also made particularly farming, food and agriculture a key growth priority of our growth plan going forward, because we see the opportunities around food and farming. So which is why exactly we conducted that study to find out warts and all what the challenges are facing, but more importantly what the opportunities are for York and North Yorkshire, particularly in food and farming, because we cannot carry on the same journey as we have been for a long time, and in overlooking and ignoring our rural communities, particularly in the north, which, let's be honest, all governments previously have been doing, but we are changing that, and I am changing that with the work that we are doing. In terms of the tourism levy, as I raised in my update earlier on, I have been engaging with hospitality organisations and sectors. Only yesterday I was over in Scarborough speaking to them and listening to their concerns, but also the opportunities that this levy could bring into our region. And as you'll be aware, that you've been engaged with the work that York St John are doing on the proposal around the tourism levy. Again, warts and all, not just looking at the, as you said, the unicorns and the rainbows of the opportunity, but what the challenges may face, so we have a better understanding. But I think it's fair to say that, you know, investment is needed into these areas, and frankly, you know, as you and a local authority, you know, if investing into these communities, you know, then if we can do it as well, then we can shore up these and we can make sure that they are thriving, which is why things like the importance of building affordable and social homes in our rural communities, improving the transport connectivity, improving the skills offering into our rural communities, which is the priorities of I as the Mayor and as the wider combined authority is doing. So I take your points on board, but I think it's fair to say the work we are doing is certainly to combat that work that hasn't been addressed over the last 20 years. Councillor Douglas, after Councillor Douglas.
Thank you. I just wondered if Councillor Dadd could tell us about the interest that he has in the visitor levy, because I don't think the public quite picked that up. Thank you.
Was that to come in?
Yes, as I've declared at the previous meeting, I am a director of a very small company that has a couple of holiday lets in states. Because we're not taking a decision, and I've requested for clarity on it through the monitoring officer, which I've not yet received, I think I'm safe in mentioning the pitfalls, not for my business, I'm talking about for more rural farming businesses. But if I could just come back, Mr. Mayor, on a point that you made, that I think you said that no other local authority has looked at this issue in depth. That's not true. North Yorkshire Council, about 5 years ago, I'm told, commissioned a rural commission, and that's got some very startling findings. And I very much hope that the work that you are now doing on top of that recognises that work, because it's pointed some of our policy decisions, for example, second homes, council tax premiums, and the likes, that we've taken as a local authority. So it's unfair and untrue to say that there's been no work done. There most certainly has.
And we are actually revamping that rural piece, because now we have the powers that I bring as Mayor. We can bring the the opportunities that devolution brings in terms of the extra funding into things like brownfield housing and transport and skills funding, which is also the potential importance of something like an overnight levy, because we all know there isn't all the money in the world to go around. The opportunity to bring in substantial year-on-year funding into our region to support, as we all know that we have projects and opportunities that we all want to fund, particularly looking at transport as one of the key opportunities. But in terms of funding, you know, you'll know yourselves, I think that bus journeys in North Yorkshire have dropped by half over the last decade. We need the investment isn't there. So the opportunity of an overnight levy to not only to support the sector and grow it, but also to work closely with our communities who, at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, to make sure that they can move around our region, they can afford the homes, they can have the skills and the opportunities. And we can combat the challenge that so many of our young people face who see York and North Yorkshire as not a place to be because they don't see the opportunities. We can hold and harness that great opportunity of our young people, particularly to make sure our economy grows and works for everyone, which I don't think it is currently. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, would you like to come in there?
Just very briefly, Mayor, if I may. I think it's disappointing that Councillor Dad has chosen to turn this into a spat, and while that is a level that I would normally love to stoop to, on this occasion, I think it will be disrespectful to Jan and to Grow Yorkshire. We listened attentively to what you had to say, Jan, and I wanted to finish by saying you're doing fantastic work. It's great work in the region, and more power to your elbow.
Thank you very much, John. Recommendations can be found on page 46 of the agenda pack. We seek a proposer and seconder.
Seconded.
All those in favour, move to the vote. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Jan. Item 10 is the Innovation Framework Development, position in York and North Yorkshire for national investment. This will be presented in the absence of Andy Kerr from Andrew Lehman, also in the absence of Dave Ryden, actually, as well. Sorry, Andrew Lehman. Sorry about that. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, it's nice to be at the third tier of thing to introduce something. Yeah, so this, I mean, I think this is a really critical move, actually, this report, in terms of how we start to deliver on our local growth plan, and particularly that innovation-led approach to growth. So this provides an update on that strategic development that we're undertaking around the York and North Yorkshire Innovation Framework. The framework is generally sort of based around three things. One is developing an Innovate UK action plan, and that very much aligning to our local growth plan, and also to a more broader innovation strategy, which will set out clearly what actions will be taken to address this important issue. I mean, secondly, to sort of convene an innovation leadership alliance of the universities, businesses and local authorities, known more generally as a triple helix, which is critically important when we talk about innovation in this area. And also establishing a task and finish group to overseen by the business board to ensure that business voices and specialist advice and investment comes through into that discussion. So this ultimately will aim to deliver an innovation-led growth, as I say, very much linked to what we're trying to achieve under our local growth plan, and will guide an innovation strategy that will be presented to this combined authority in the summer as a more comprehensive strategic document. So just a little bit of an update on each element, really. It's the action plan with Innovate UK. So Innovate UK is the government's body for innovation. They're preparing action plans within each of the regions across the UK, jointly with combined authorities. So there is a draft version of that within the report. It sets out that sort of significance of collaboration between those key players. And as I said earlier, the draft is set out. Our innovation strategy will then follow that action plan later on in the summer. I think the other thing to pick up really is the sort of potential funding opportunity. It's already been mentioned about the Local Innovation Partnership Fund, a £500 million government announcement in the spending review, of which £30 million went to each of the established CAs. We now have the opportunity to bid for £20 million through that fund. That bid will be led by the University of York, but very much with the combined authority and partners involvement, but particularly our oversight as acting as the sort of accountable public authority for that programme. If we get through the expression of interest successfully, we'll then move on to the full submission as a full timetable for that. Just, you know, in terms of recommendations, it's really to endorse this approach under this overall framework, then to delegate approval for the Director of Economy in agreement with the Mayor for the final approval of the Innovation Action Plan. As I say, the draft is included in the report. And then to sort of note that we're moving towards that regional innovation strategy that will be brought to a future meeting, but also to endorse the approach with the University of York for the submission of the Partnership Fund bid, so that we can start to address the needs and move forward on this important innovation agenda, which is the thing that will really enable some of the growth potential that we've identified in our local growth plan to come through. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Andrew. I think this is one of the classic examples of something where not being that established status, we have, you know, missed out on that initial potential of 30 million, now having to do this work to actually go and bid into a smaller pot. So even though the approach, particularly working with University of York, I think really sends that clear message that we are, you know, doing that partnership working, that we are bringing, you know, business investors, we are bringing the academia and everyone around the table, and we are making the most of our potential with our growth plan. This is obviously, I think, is a really great strategy, a way of working, particularly with the University of York and their and their expertise. But it is that classic example of where not being established status, we're almost having to do more work to bid into that funding there. Any comments or questions for Andrew? Would you like to come in, Councillor Douglas?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, and I really welcome this application, and as you might expect, with the University of York being such a valued and important anchor tenant, anchor institution in York, that I have been along this journey as well, and continue to work with the University of York on our drive for innovation across our city, and using our world-class facilities to really bring very tangible benefits to York. And in fact, the biocampus that the application is based around forms part of the York Prospectus, our economic drive, and ask both our intergovernment and the private sector of a real step change in the way that York is approaching how the city is run, and also our absolute ambition for the people of York and the opportunities that is brought to them. So I'm very supportive of this. It brings huge economic value and also social value to our people. And I really look forward to the application going in, and hopefully seeing a successful response come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Any more comments or questions for Andrew in the absence of Andy and David? If not, we can go to a proposer and a second for the recommendations on page 53, the agenda pack. Second, and all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew. Item 11 is draft Mayor's general budget and precept. Before I bring Mike in, this is a report of the Mayor. I'll just give a brief overview into the factors I considered in determining the Mayoral general precept. This paper sets out the financial context of North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue, and my recommendation for introducing a £9.60 increase for Band D properties in York and North Yorkshire, setting the 2026-27 Mayoral general precept at £116.62 for a Band D property, which is a 80p a month increase. Increasing the precept is not a decision that I make lightly at all, and have considered multiple factors in reaching this decision. In consulting on and recommending the precept, I outlined 3 mayoral precepting principles that would apply to making the decisions. These were the minimum possible burden on local taxpayers, having effective, well-managed public services that keep people safe and deliver value for money, delivering on local public priorities for both services, including improving the safety of our roads. These principles ensure a balance between effective public services and the pressure many families are facing. In setting the Precept last year and addressing the £21 million funding gap as a result of a frozen Precept between 2011 and 2014, that was a priority. This puts North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue in a perilous position, facing bankruptcy unless decisions were taken, and I welcome the panel's support in this decision last year. Last year's Precept ensured we could enable the service to reduce risk and vulnerability in our communities, increasing prevention and public protection work, ensure operational readiness and preparedness, ensure adaptability to the changing risk and demands, especially environmental, but also our ageing population and vulnerabilities, and ensuring sustainability, securing the service's financial footing and investing in the infrastructure. This year's Precept proposal seeks to maintain and improve delivery against the fire and rescue plan and objectives set out last year by myself and my Deputy Mayor. We received just over 2,600 responses to our public consultation, and I thank those who took part in that consultation. This consultation found that 57% of respondents supported a Precept at this level. I have also considered the value for money letter from the Chief Fire Officer following correspondence from my Deputy Mayor. He sets out his view of the impact the Precept funding will have on the fire service at each of these proposed values and in relation to the core principle that I proposed. Clearly, the outcome of local government finance settlement has factored in. As a result, the Deputy Mayor and I wrote to lobby the Housing Secretary expressing concern around the reduction in government grant and once again calling for fire authorities funding to reflect our rural needs. Joe has also outlined and has also continued regular engagement with the FBU. The Landale Moor fire in particular put a large strain on the finances of the fire service last year. Without the Precept increase last year to stabilise those finances would have put the fire service in a very dangerous financial position and demonstrates the importance of a stable footing. Our programme of capital investment was also a significant factor, ensuring that while other fire and rescue services having to close stations, North Yorkshire residents are benefit from new stations like those in Ripon and proposals in Moulton, Scarborough and also in Northallerton. This also extends to ensuring our firefighters are safe and well served, with 16 brand new fire appliances ordered with delivery set to be completed. I believe we have also received those fire appliances already. Finally, and a big area of work that myself and my Deputy Mayor are prioritising is road safety. And in the police and fire plans for Joe and I, funding for partnership previously sourced from the leftover excess budgets from COVID period, and that funding is running out in April of this year. The Precept accounts for maintaining this service and making for our roads safer. And I hope we'll be able to move forward with the ambition together for both local authorities with the backing of capital transport grants. At a meeting of North Yorkshire Police Fire and Crime Panel on Wednesday, these proposals were endorsed unanimously by a cross-party committee who noted that much improved financial security of the fire and rescue service following the long period of instability the service had faced for over a decade. The work the service had done, in particular the pressures the service had faced responding to the Langdale fire, and for assurance around the level of reserves in case pay awards are higher than anticipated. So I'll invite Mike now just to speak slightly further into the report and the details, if I may. Mike.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, so members, I'll take you through the more technical aspects of the report because the Mayor's given you a fairly thorough précis of the circumstances of the Fire and Rescue Authority. So, introducing the formal report for the Mayor's draft general budget and Precept proposals for 2026 and 27. These comprise solely the budgets of the North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. The purpose of this report is to meet the statutory requirement for the Mayor to present his draft budget to you as the combined authority before the 31st of January. This forms part of the legal budget setting process and ensures that you have the opportunity to review and comment on the proposals before they are finalised. As the Mayor had mentioned, the Police, Fire and Crime Panel scrutinised the proposals at its meeting on Wednesday, the 21st of February, and confirmed its support for the Mayor's budget proposal and recommended Precept level. The Mayor awaits formal written feedback from the panel. Final approval of the Mayor's general budget will come back to this authority on 6th of February, once the Mayor has formally considered any feedback received from both the panel and yourselves. Turning into the substance of the report, the Mayor is, as the Mayor mentioned, proposing a mayoral general precept of £116.62 for a Band D property across the region, which relates entirely to the funding of the North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. It represents an increase of £9.60 from last year, or around 80p per month compared to that. The increase is driven by several significant financial pressures, most notably, as the Mayor mentioned, the local government finance settlement, which confirmed a reduction of almost 25% in government grant funding over the next 3 years. That's equivalent to around 6.5% of the overall service budget, and it creates a structural funding gap that cannot be met through efficiencies alone. Alongside this, the service faces some unavoidable cost pressures, including pay awards, inflation across premises and fleet budgets, and some increased costs linked to operational training, pensions, and essential estates maintenance. The proposed precept increase will raise approximately 38.2 million next year and is essential to maintaining the operational capability of the Fire and Rescue Service, delivering the Fire and Rescue Plan and Community Risk Management Plan. This also ensures the service remains financially stable in the face of reduced central funding. Public consultation has also shown clear support for the additional investment, with 57% of respondents indicating that they were willing to pay £10 or more to support the service. The report sets out the full budget and position for the service, including a medium-term financial plan, the reserve strategy and the capital programme, all of which have been shaped to ensure resilience, value for money, and continued delivery of critical services. In terms of the recommendations at this stage, the combined authority is asked to consider the Mayor's proposal to implement a mayoral general precept of £116.62 for a Band D property, comprising fire and rescue functions, to note and comment on the proposed Mayor's general budget for 26-27, including the use of reserves and the calculation of the precept and council tax rates, to note and comment on the proposed overall budget for the Fire and Rescue Service, including the MTFP, medium-term financial position, to consider whether members wish to submit any written comments to the Mayor in line with the legal process, which is set out in Appendix 5, and to note that the final budget will be resubmitted for approval on the 6th of February, incorporating any updates arising from funding clarifications or feedback received.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments or questions for Mike on that? Would you like to come in there, Councillor Dadd?
Thank you. I mean, the first comment I'll make is we moved on from last year. Last year, we recognised the difficulties of his historic low base in terms of precept and that. And we also had a MTFP. So I suppose a line of questioning first, because we're looking at facts now. It's true, Mike, isn't it, that last year the MTFP, I think you call it, plan, as opposed to our MTFS at North Yorkshire, same thing, was proposing a £6 increase this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, the plan at the time did include a £6 increase.
But of course, things have changed. I think you referred to a 25% government cut in funding as a result of the settlement.
Yeah, so that 25% reflects, as I mentioned in the paper, about 6.5% of the overall service budget, but it's phased over 3 years.
Yeah,
so it's not immediate.
And quite right, we're looking 3 years hence. You can't look at a year in isolation, which is what we did last year, expecting a £6 increase. So the £9.60, first of all, is a 9% increase, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Can you tell me, if that funding cut from central government hadn't occurred, with everything else being equal, would we have still been online to stick to last year's plan at £6 increase?
Well, I think the question for me is around the plan. I think that the fire service has performed within its plan for this current year.
Yeah.
So the position on funding was an assumption in the medium-term financial plan that the government settlement would increase below inflation, but by around 2%. So
the position on Precept, which would be a main decision, obviously, and would have taken all things into account, would probably have been different if that funding settlement had been in line with expectations. But I can't comment on what that Precept proposal might have been.
Well, we had a Precept proposal of £6 increase last year, didn't we? And we've lost some government funding. Does the amount of government funding, and we'll take it over the 3 years an average, does that more or less transfer across to the extra £3.60
But I
that
think,
we're asking?
yeah, in the context of the Precept, a pound of Precept at the moment is probably, in the context of revenue to the fire service, about 320, I think, actually £320,000.
Yeah.
This next year, we're expecting a reduction in government funding of, I think it was around 960,000. I might be wrong because I've not got the reports. That paper was not in front of me, so it does reflect broadly a £3.
£3. So we can safely say we would not have been in this position of having to ask this authority to approve or to pass comment on the £9.60 increase. It would have been as we were at £6. That probably would have been the case, wouldn't it? If we hadn't had that government cut in funding.
I think I could say financial modelling could have been built around that assumption.
Okay, and I say that, and I've got to say I can't see any other outcome, to be fair, other than to approve the £9.60. But let's leave this at the door of the government where it should be, because that's why we're in this position. And yeah, I'd be accused of making a political statement too, right? I'm making a political statement. I've had to make a political statement at North Yorkshire because on that authority's future outlook, we've taken a £43 million wallop. I've seen some data today that tells us it was commissioned by the County Council's network on a cross-party basis, I might add. Whereas for every pound in costs, the government have given rural authorities 2p, as opposed to 42p for urban authorities, because of course they're driven by deprivation targets and indicators rather than the cost of services. So in summary, I think when push comes to shove, we won't have any choice, but the message has got to be clear. This isn't our doing. This is as a result of a further, I'm going to say, attack on rural funding.
Thank you, Mike. Before I bring Joe in, I'm happy to make a political statement. We're still in the position where we're having to rectify huge challenges over the last 15 years, particularly into our fire and rescue services. You'll be aware, Councillor Dad, that between 2011 and 2014, seeing the freeze of that funding resulted in a nearly £21 million lack of funding isn't just day-to-day revenue to run it, that's also lack of investment into that 15-year period, i.e. the 16 new appliances that we've been able to afford it from last year, from this year, from the increased Precept, means that our fire and rescue service is actually fit for purpose going forward, which wasn't the case over the last 15 years. So while I take on board your comments around the cuts this year, we are still rectifying the challenges that have been brought to our door that Joe and I inherited when we came in, and the role that Joe particularly has taken on as Deputy Mayor for policing and fire and on the commissioning side of things, rectifying the complete and utter mess and failings of previous commissioners and governments to invest in our frontline services in York and North Yorkshire particularly. And just so you can say that I am, working jointly for York and North Yorkshire and challenges these faces, just some of the correspondence I've had with writing to central government, so to the Right Honourable Shabana Mahmood about neighbourhood policing funding settlement, writing to Steve Reid MP for North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service funding formula, writing to Jim McMahon back in the 14th of August 2025 about the funding review consultation to make sure that it is right for York and North Yorkshire. This one is so old, it's on our old letterhead back in 13th of January 2025, again writing to Jim McMahon about the importance of making sure that areas like ours are properly funded, writing to Heidi Alexander, the Transport Secretary, to make sure we get a fair transport settlement, which has not only been rural communities have done well, but many non-Labour areas have done better off than us, including Reform and Conservative areas. and also writing to Steve Reed on the 9th of January as well to make sure that funding formulas for local authorities are supported. I am always working for York and North Yorkshire, making sure we get the right funding for our area, and taking decisions like this I do not take lightly. But let's be frank, you can say there are faults of this Labour government currently, and I take that on board, but we are still picking up the mess from 15 years of complete lack of investment into our frontline services, and in particularly into the north and into rural parts of North Yorkshire. Deputy Mayor Jo Coles, let's come in.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for to Mike and officers for the paper. There were just, in response to Councillor Dadd's point, there were just a couple of things I wanted to draw members' attentions to. The Mayor has already drawn members' attention to the significant correspondence that we have had with government about funding formulas for both the police and the fire and rescue service. But this was also a year in which we have had an enormous fire, 10 times the size of the Great Fire of London, in the most rural part of our region, that required the response from both every regional fire and rescue service, every appliance in our region who attended that fire during the course of the incident, as well as a number of national response appliances from other parts of the country. As the Mayor set out, we would not have survived as a fire and rescue service without the investment that the Mayor put in through the Precept this time last year, because actually we wouldn't have had enough reserves to have kept the fire service going during that fire taking place. We have made representations to the government. An invoice for £2.8 million has gone into the government for the Belwyn scheme to pay just for the fire and rescue costs of putting out that fire. And the Mayor and I have also made representations on behalf of North Yorkshire Council at your request, on behalf of the National and the Local Resilience Forum, both to MHCLG and to DEFRA, as part of the recovery process that we also need to fund as part of the fire recovery at Langdale. That is a further £3 million that we are making representations on your behalf to the government in order to try and ensure that both the local authorities and the fire and rescue service are properly recompensed for a major national event that took place in North Yorkshire last year. And I think trying to score points about government investment in fire and rescue services, if we did not have mayoral flexibility for the fire and rescue service, we wouldn't have a fire and rescue service anymore. We would have been bankrupted this time last year. And if you look at Dorset and Wiltshire and the situation that they are in, where they don't have a combined authority, they are facing fire station closures, enormous cuts to their fire and rescue service. We are fortunately in the position where we can, as David has very clearly set out, he has set these mayoral principles, which is about the minimum possible burden on council taxpayers. We do not do one penny of this lightly, but £9.60 is the only way that we can maintain this public service, deliver on the priorities that have been set, and have the minimum possible burden on council taxpayers. So I think it's a bit cheap to try and score points with this when we are advocating for North Yorkshire Council at every opportunity that we can in terms of the response to the Langdale incident and trying to maintain the fire and rescue service. Thank you.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's fair to say that we're not only maintaining, but actually investing and improving as well, which is the key part of it, because we know the current, pardon the pun, climate of what we're facing is our fire and rescue service having to do with a lot more than they may have done previously, as we've seen about wildfires and the potential of flooding. So we're not only maintaining a service that was out of date, we're actually investing and improving to make sure it is fit for purpose. So I welcome the work done, and thank you, Mike, for presented. Would you like to come back in there, Councillor Dadd?
Yeah. I've not said that you haven't lobbied, both yourself and your deputy. I've not criticised either of you or this combined authority for the actions that you have or have not taken. I've merely stated that the blame for this increase that wasn't planned last year must lay with government and must lay with settlement. I also accept that the type of things that Joe spoke about in terms of getting resilience and investment, I absolutely accept, as I did last year, that we were in that position as a result of bad decisions some years ago. We lost the base and we won't go into that, but we had that debate last year. I am merely talking about the contrast and the changing circumstances between last year and this, because the public facing a 9% rise in their precept will want to know why.
Thank you, Councillor Dadden. I say you haven't in this, but you know, according to today's paper, there has been statements raised that I don't care about rural communities and I haven't made them as a priority, which I find ludicrous and quite offensive, quite frankly.
Well, that, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, that may have been said by others. It certainly hasn't been said by me.
It was said by members around this table.
Sorry?
It was said by members around this table
When?
in the news reports this week.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm speaking on this matter now. I don't know what others have said. I haven't seen a news report. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm making the point, comparing last year's expected precept to this year's. I never made any accusation that you haven't lobbied and the like. So I want that on the record, please.
Joe?
Thanks. I just wanted to slightly change the tone, if it's okay, because I wanted to pull people back to the investment that is being proposed into the fire and rescue service for next year. The work that was done over the Christmas period to ensure that the consultation took place meaningfully. The one thing I would agree with Councillor Dowden, and there won't be very much, but that actually we do need to ensure that we are getting better representation in our precept consultation with people under the age of 40, because actually I'm really concerned that they are the people in our region who are probably least able to afford the proposed increases, and actually that is the group that are still underrepresented in our consultation responses, despite, I have to say, enormous efforts from the police, fire and crime team over the Christmas period, trying to ensure that we got a really good representative response from across the region. They did amazing work. They were out in York because we knew that York was underrepresented. They were out in York in the run up to Christmas and over the Christmas period to try and ensure that we got better representation from City of York as well as from North Yorkshire. But we do still always have underrepresentation from people under 40 who are the least likely to be the least able to afford this increase. And I absolutely accept that we need to ensure that we are doing things in the most affordable way, but we also need to ensure that we are keeping people safe and having a fire and rescue service where we are investing in firefighter safety. No one lost their life at Langdale. There was no loss of property. Actually, if we weren't able to invest in that firefighter safety and in our partnership working, which I referred to earlier in the rural economy, those partnerships with farmers and landowners are incredibly important to our fire and rescue service. And I know that the Chief Fire Officer, who was at the Police, Fire and Crime panel on Wednesday, would again extend his thanks to all of those people who worked in partnership with our amazing firefighters to ensure that everyone was kept safe in that incident. This is the minimum that we can have in order to maintain our fire and rescue service. The inspectorate came to inspect the service this year, and they have already looked at whether or not the efficiency of the service is actually one of the areas in which they do incredibly well, probably because of the practice that they had under austerity in making ends meet. But we are absolutely determined to ensure that we both invest in this service and that we do it in terms of the collaborations with the police and other partners in the region to ensure that we are doing everything that we can to keep people safe in our region. And this proposal is for the coming year and the efforts that will be made in that year. We've made reference to the assurances that we've had from the Chief Fire Officer. I don't know whether it would be useful to share those assurances with members of the Combined Authority to ensure that you're aware of the assurances that we've had from the Fire Chief about what he will be doing to ensure the service is run efficiently and that we're delivering value for money for council taxpayers in the region. But we can do that.
Thank you, Joe. I think that'd be a good opportunity to share that information around. I think all members would like to see that piece of work. Thank you. Okay, recommendations can be found on page 90 of the agenda pack. Do we seek a proposer and seconder?
Proposed.
And all those in favour? Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Item 12 is the forward plan report of the head of governance from Paul, if I may bring you in, Paul, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Very short update, conscious of time. The most recent published version of the forward plan is attached in the papers, so members have all had sight of that. By way of verbal update, there are a few items that are going on to the next published version. They include the general combined authority budget, which is coming to the 27th of February. And on the 27th of March, we have a housing growth plan item and a local growth funding item as well. If any other items come forward, I'll circulate those for members' attention.
I'm happy just to note the forward plan. If any members have any questions or comments they want for Paul, members happy just to note instead. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. And item 13, urgent business. I've got no urgent business. Anyone got any urgent business? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and everyone who spoke as well in the meeting today. Is very kind of you to come along. The next scheduled meeting is Friday, the 6th of February at 10:30 at County Hall in Northallerton. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, officers.